Player profile number 1, Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem Olajuwon, or known as Hakeem the Dream, was drafted first overall in the stacked 1984 NBA draft by the Houston Rockets. Yeah, even over this guy. To say Hakeem hit the ground running as soon as his feet touched the hardwood would be an understatement, making an all-star appearance in his rookie season while coming second in Rookie of the Year voting, only bested by you-know-who. Unlike Olajuwon's fellow centers who played with multiple Hall of Fame guards, he didn't have that same luxury. However, unlike the soft and cowardly players of today, Hakeem stayed in Houston for 17 of his 18 seasons in the NBA. In Hakeem's sophomore season, him and the only other all-star on his team in Ralph Sampson blitzed through the Western Conference, even defeating the famed Showtime Lakers in 5 games to run up against that year's league MVP, Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics. Despite not winning the championship, the Dream sent a warning to the league with that playoff run. However, following the run, his teammate Ralph Sampson was plagued with injuries, playing only 43 games the following season, which would end up being his final full season in Houston, which would result in Hakeem spending the rest of his prime playing with no other All-NBA selected talent. In 1993, Hakeem would pick up his first Defensive Player of the Year award, which should honestly be many more than just 2. In the first round of the 1994 playoffs, Hakeem and the Rockets defeated the 47-win Trailblazers led by Clyde Drexler. In the second round, facing the 56-win Phoenix Suns led by the previous year's league MVP Charles Barkley, who were just in the finals the previous year after losing to once again this guy, which landed his Rockets in the 1994 NBA Finals against the 57-win Patrick Ewing and John Starks-led New York Knicks, beating them in 7 games in one of the greatest series in NBA history. And so after winning the championship, Hakeem accomplished the perfect NBA season, become the only player in NBA history to be an All-Star, have first-team All-NBA section, be first-team All-NBA defense, win MVP, win Defensive Player of the Year, and win the championship while also being named Finals MVP. He was doing all of this while averaging a monstrous 28.9 points per game, 11 boards, 4.3 assists, and on top of that, 4 blocks. Doing that while all the while, second leading scorer that playoff run was Vernon Maxwell, with an average of about 14 points a game, who never managed to make a single All-NBA or All-Star selection. In the following season, his Rockets picked up an aging Clyde Drexler and ended up as the 6th seed with only 47 wins, which would prepare them for arguably the greatest championship run of all time, alongside Kobe's 2010 run and Dirk's 2011 run. In just the first round of the playoffs, Hakeem had to face the second-seeded 60-win Stockton and Malone Jazz. In the second round, he faced the 59-win Phoenix Suns, once again led by Barkley. And in the conference finals, he faced the first-seeded 62-win San Antonio Spurs, led by that year's league MVP, David Robinson. Defeating the Spurs in 6 games landed Hakeem in a familiar place, the NBA Finals, where he was pitted up against the 57-win Orlando Magic, led by an All-Star Shaq and All-Star guard Penny Hardaway, who had just defeated a rusty Michael Jordan in the semifinals. And Hakeem dominated Shaq in the series defensively and offensively, dropping averages of 33 points, 11 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks a game, which would help them easily sweep the Magic and going back-to-back, completing statistically the hardest championship in NBA history. This player front's case as the greatest, or if not one of the greatest, only strengthens when you factor in the teams he faced and his supporting cast, or the lack thereof. The following seasons would not be kind to the Dream, as he suffered severe injuries and would literally limp around the floor, playing his final season in Toronto in 2001. Hakeem Olajuwon is the only player in NBA history to have more than 1 quadruple-double. He led the NBA in blocks 3 times. He has 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, which should honestly be way more. He was selected to an All-NBA defensive team 9 times, and he still leads the NBA in block shots, cementing himself in my mind as the greatest defender in NBA history. Hakeem was not only the greatest defender in the league, but debatably a top 5 scorer in the league as well, using his fast and skilled footwork to dominate the golden age of centers in the paint, using his famous moves on them like the Dream Shake. Hakeem's post moves are so influential that the greatest players of all time still seek out his footwork advice all these years later. He's the leader of block shots by a pretty wide margin, and as the game develops into a more 3-pointer oriented game, I don't see Hakeem's record being broken anytime soon. Hakeem Olajuwon is arguably the greatest two-way player of all time, the greatest defender of all time, with 2 of the greatest playoff runs of all time, and arguably the perfect NBA season under his belt. Doing these insane feats all while having a very underwhelming supporting cast, it's easy to see why Hakeem is easily a top 10 player of all time.